Welcome to the Mercenaries TV. My name is Sebastian, and in this first impression video I'm going to share my thoughts on the newest iteration of Mercenaries which we have gotten for Resident Evil 4 Remake. As a longtime fan of this bonus mode and a veteran player who played all the Mercenaries iterations in the past, besides the one in RE Village, I of course have my thoughts on it, and I was expecting some very good stuff here with the Resident Evil 4 Remake, which has gotten some very good receptions by the players. So I think this will be a fun talk. It's kind of like a free talk. I will just give my opinion on many different parts of this game mode. And with that out of the way, let's get into it. Before I really want to start giving you my opinions on it, I want to get this out of the way real quick. We have not gotten Ada and Wesker as playable characters in this iteration, and it has caused some, first of all, confusion I think with some players why they wouldn't be in this game mode, and for some people it really made them angry that they are not included here. It's pretty obvious at this point that we will get a separate Waze DLC for RE4 Remake, and I think it will be exactly at that time that we will get Ada and Wesker, which makes sense thematically, I will say, because, you know, that DLC will be all about Ada and probably about Wesker as well. Anyone who has played the story knows that. I think it's kind of sad in a way, but also I do understand why Capcom would take this move. Now, what was discovered in the data mining of the original Resident Evil 4 files was also a fourth map, and we only have gotten 3 maps so far, which is Village, Castle and the Island. So there was a fourth one, and that one will probably be in that DLC as well. I personally do hope that Capcom will add some additional content besides the one that was found in the data mining to add to the Mercenaries at that point in time, and who knows, maybe they do, because this game turns out to be pretty popular with the fans, and like I said, the general reception is so great, and let's hope for it. But I just wanted to get this out of the way real quick for anyone who's wondering. So Ada and Wesker are not in the Mercenaries right now, so we only have 4 characters. We have Leon, we have Louise, which is a new one, we have Hank, and also Trouser. I'm giving you my review of this game mode from a competitive perspective, I would say. I was always interested in the competitive aspects of this game mode for almost 2 decades, and I would consider myself as a veteran player, of course, because I played since the original Resident Evil 4 Mercenaries. I say that because I know there are a lot of people which just play it for fun, and while obviously even I think the competitive players play it for fun, it kind of brings a different perspective. For some people it's just a mode that they dive into it like maybe 2 or 3 times and then they let it go forever. But for others it's something that they spend quite a lot of time with, trying to master all the mechanics and get a high score, of course. I personally spent most of my time with the Mercenaries mode from Resident Evil 5 and also the standalone game on the 3DS, which were very similar in nature, and especially concerning the scoring system and how you would get high scores. That was very similar in these 2 games, and I'm happy to say that this mode in Resident Evil 4 Remake has drawn a lot of inspiration from these iterations specifically. On top of that, I'm also very pleased that this mode is nothing like the RE Village Mercenaries mode, and in fact it preserves a lot of the good things from the original RE4 while adding a lot of the stuff that was added later with Resident Evil 5 specifically, that was very well received by the players. Because, you know, I think that the original Resident Evil 5 Mercenaries, not Reunion and also not Mercenaries United, that was pretty much the golden standard for a Mercenaries mode, and I know that there are a lot of people who agree with that. In fact, there are some people who play this mode up to this day, so yeah, kind of that speaks for its popularity and for its great design choices that Capcom has made. There was one specific thing that I was hoping for with this iteration of Mercenaries, and I'm very stoked that I can say they did it. And when I first finished my run, my first run in this game mode, I noticed that they kept the enemies to 150, which was a system that got introduced in Resident Evil 5, and I think that was one of the greatest changes that they did from RE4 to RE5 Mercenaries, that they introduced this enemy cap, because 150 not only is a great number in terms of how much time a run takes. It's not too little, it's not too much. It's actually, I think, a very, very good amount of enemies. And the actual important thing with this enemy cap is that they could add back a mechanic from RE5 that I really hope to see. And when I entered the first results screen of that first run, and I saw that they have this line here which says time bonus 1000 points for every second that you have left, I really could not help myself but smile. While Capcom never fully ditched this system of giving you extra time for every second that you have left on the clock after finishing a run, they changed it in Reunion and also kept it in RE6, and they lowered this amount to 200 to 300 points per second, I guess, which really kinda took away the emphasis of the leftover time in regards to the overall score. So what I mean by that is, it wasn't displayed in the score as much as it is with 1000 points how much time you have left over. So I think the importance for getting as much time as possible on the clock once the run is finished was lowered because of that system, and I felt that it wasn't great and it wasn't contributing to making Mercenaries more fun. From a competitive standpoint, I think that it is great to have an enemy cap and also having this time bonus still be in the game. And I'm just very happy and just want to give my thanks to Capcom and a very positive review on my part regarding this very simple stuff concerning the scoring system. Additionally, I'm also very happy to say that I think all the greatest things that Mercenaries ever brought to the table are 100% intact in this game mode, and I would almost call them legendary. These are some basic fundamentals, some foundations of general Mercenaries gameplay. They kept it all with RE4 Remake's Mercenaries mode. Like in the past, once you start a run, you have exactly 2 minutes on your overall clock. You start the run, and what you have lying before you is a map that is basically shrunken in size sometimes compared to the original areas. Sometimes it's also expanded upon, and sometimes they changed some key locations to make it fit more for a Mercenaries minigame. One additional thing is that there are items lying around on the map. So some of them are lying around open and some of them are in crates. Some of them are scripted, some of them are random, and that is basically a staple of Mercenaries forever, so I'm really happy that this system is back. You would also have a way of adding some additional time to your overall timer, mainly by collecting some sort of extra time crystal, or in Resident Evil 4 Remake, these are actually called time orbs, I think. They are these green little orbs that are scattered around the map, and they either add 30, 60 or 90 seconds to your overall timer. The last of the general game mechanics was a bonus system. In the original RE4 it was a crate system that once you would open a crate containing a bonus time, you would have 30 seconds to get some extra points, and they were added on top of your score that you would get anyways. They kinda took the same system in RE5 and also RE6, but they toned it down a lot in especially RE5 and also Mercenaries 3D. So these bonus times, they were actually worthless basically. So this time around they actually introduced a system called Mayhem Mode, which is a direct replacement for the original bonus system. And from my viewpoint, I think this system is very, very, very well designed. I mean, there is so much depth to it from a competitive standpoint, and I think also for players which are just getting into Mercenaries and just getting into it just for fun basically. It's a great mechanic that they've introduced here, and let me tell you how it works. So on the bottom is actually a Mayhem bar, or I think it's called Mayhem Gauge, but anyways, it doesn't really matter, I just call it Mayhem bar. And this thing fills up over time by just running around and doing nothing. But then there are also actions that you can perform during a run, like melee kill, just a normal kill, or a headshot, or a knife kill, or a parry. And all these things will fill up this bar to different amounts. So that's first of all very interesting, that the action that you do basically fills this bar up differently. So especially for competitive players, this is something they now want to know, well, what is filling this bar up the most, of course. But yeah, just to keep it simple, that is the way how this bar fills up. Now, there's also a difference between the characters in how long it takes till this mayhem bar is fully charged and how often you can load it up. So for example, with Krauser, it only has to fill 1 time till it's fully charged. With Luis, it has to fill 2 times, and with Leon and Hank, it has to fill 3 times. Once you enter Mayhem mode by pressing a button combination, 3 things are happening. The first one being that your character gains a special ability, the second one being that you earn some extra bonus points for completing certain actions, and the third one is that the time bonuses that you get from melee kills, knife kills, and also headshots, they will be doubled. The amount of time you stay in Mayhem mode is dependent on the character and of course on how much you have charged the Mayhem bar. So yeah, I think it's advisable to always charge it to the maximum, because there's also more bonuses if you have it charged to the maximum. So there's actually no point in going into Mayhem mode early on. I mean, like mostly there is no point. At least for the time being, I see no good use of it. I can say here right now that the right execution of Mayhem mode will definitely be the determining factor for getting like super high scores in this game mode. There's just no way that you can afford to don't care about Mayhem mode basically. Just the time bonuses that you get or the bonus points from completing certain actions, I think that will rack up, and of course people are trying to figure it out. And I have to say, Capcom did a really good job of making this Mayhem mode very in-depth, because there are many different things that the game doesn't tell you that you have to find out yourself. Let me give you one example for Leon. Once he is in Mayhem mode, if he racks up a headshot with his pistol, he will get 5,000 extra points just for a completed headshot, a headshot kill basically, with his pistol. But if he does it with his Stingray sniper rifle, he will get 8,000 points, so that's 3,000 points more, and yeah, that is very well worth knowing, of course. And so I think the better way is to try to get headshots with his sniper rifle, of course. I will in this video of course not go into all the details of Mayhem mode, but it actually is quite interesting what Capcom did here, and there will come a time when people will know how the ins and outs of this mode will work, but for now I think it's very interesting to discover all the uses of it and how to time it correctly, and yeah, all sorts of different things of course. So I definitely am a big fan of Mayhem mode, and also the abilities that you get, like for example Krauser obviously mutates into his mutated form, Luis can plant dynamite, and Hank will like get infinite ammo for his submachine gun, and also the attack damage and critical hit rate are increased, and Leon will get faster and get more attack damage, reload faster, and yeah, it's pretty interesting to find out what all these Mayhem modes are doing and how to use them correctly. One final thing I want to say about Mayhem mode is that there are also these Mayhem orbs which are scattered across the maps. For the village map, for example, there are 2 Mayhem orbs, and if you collect any of them, your Mayhem bar will fill up by 1 level. So that is very interesting, and since Mayhem mode has such great implications for scoring high, I think it also puts some importance on these Mayhem orbs. And I personally think that that is a good thing. I mean, if I remember Resident Evil 5 or even Merc 3D, these bonus chests, I mean, you would rarely collect them because it just wasn't worth the effort to actually go there for the most part. I mean, especially if you're playing solo, the time that you would need to get to that crate and collect the bonus time, I mean, you would just be better off just doing melee kills. So yeah, I think it's great that they made this system so it actually matters and it's worth it to get these Mayhem Orbs. One important system from older Mercenary modes also makes its return here in RE4R, and that is the melee system, and basically the system to get some time back for executing melee kills. But this time around it's a little bit different, because you also get time back for headshots, and you also get time back for knife kills, and you also get some additional time for having grenade kills, which is pretty interesting. It's a little bit less than these other things, but yeah, I mean, you still get some additional time, and especially in Mayhem mode it can be used, I think, to some extent. So yeah, it's actually pretty cool. The time system is also directly linked to the combo by having a multiplier, and the higher the combo, the higher the multiplier, which is pretty interesting. So the highest you actually can get to is 1.5 times the amount of time you get for a single action, and that's pretty interesting that we have this system now. So say for example, a melee kill is worth 2 seconds, a headshot is also worth 2 seconds, and a knife kill is worth 4 seconds. If you have this multiplier, that will add up to even more time. So that's, yeah, it's really nice that Capcom really went very deep into kind of somewhat researching probably the older games and what made them great, and I have to say this is a very good system. And on top of that, if you're doing Mayhem mode, the amount of time you will get will also be doubled again during the Mayhem mode, which, yeah, it's really quite interesting to learn all these things, and there's some great depth to it. Regarding the time and Mayhem Orbs, there are also some differences to older titles as well. At first I was thinking they were lying at random locations, but after further investigation I noticed that there are some predetermined layouts where these orbs are. I think there are like 3 or 4 different versions, and you are always starting at the same place, which was different in past titles where you would have like 2 spawn locations or even 3 spawn locations where you could start a run. This time it's only 1 location, so it's always the same, but these orbs are at different places, and that brings some very good strategic element to it, thinking about which route you want to take and which orb layout is the best. So yeah, I think Capcom has really outdone themselves with introducing some very, very good mechanics in this Mercenaries mode. I really have to say I'm super happy how it turned out, and yeah, I cannot wait what people can come up with, and yeah, it's definitely great. One area of this Mercenaries mode I also want to give praise is its presentation and also the heads-up display. So for example, if we are in the main menu and go to the stage selection, we will now see the high score for each character. So it's a very simple thing, but in the past Capcom has missed this simple thing. And because the characters all play differently and have a different potential for high scores, it's nice to see the score for each and every character individually. They have also done this for the leaderboards, where you can filter for the characters, so you can see the highest score for Hank. And while I'm on PC and the PC leaderboards are already filled with cheaters, so they are actually worthless, on the consoles it's definitely pretty great for now. I mean, eventually there will be some cheaters on there as well, but yeah, that's not really Capcom's fault, I think. It's just too hard to kind of stop all the mods and stuff, which basically can cheat your way up the leaderboards, but generally the leaderboards are constructed very well too, so yeah. Of course, I also need to mention the great heads-up display during a run, which gives you so much information this time around, some very good quality of life improvements, and also some information for competitive folks like me and others which just want to know what's going on. And there are like sometimes situations where during a run you notice, well, I'm just not good enough and I need to restart this run. And so it's always great to have as much information as possible displayed. And some people have basically, I've seen them say that this HUD is kind of cluttered, but I disagree. It's a great HUD. It's very simple. You can see all the things that you need to know, and yeah, I really do like it. Especially this little bar beneath the combo counter this time around. That is a really good improvement, because now you can see how much time you have left to get the next kill in order for you to maintain the combo and keep the chain going. And it's a very little thing, but you know, these little details make up for a very great experience overall. So yeah, very well appreciated, of course, here. And the time bonuses and bonus points that you get will now be displayed during the run. They kinda are linked to the enemy that you kill. So for example here, if I get a headshot during Mayhem mode, you will see in yellow the additional points that you get for the Mayhem mode. But you see also the 500 points you get for just racking up the kill, and you also see in green the amount of time. So it's a really good system. Also this color coding, I really like it. So we have white for just the basic stuff, we have yellow for the Mayhem stuff, and we have green for the time stuff, which also corresponds to the orbs, which are green and orange orbs. So yeah, it's a very good system, I think, and Capcom deserves praise for it. Now, how are all these things going to play out competitively? I cannot say right now, but what I will say is that after just the first weekend, we already see some people going for world records and going for high scores and trying to figure it out, and you know, just having a good time, I think. This mode is pretty diverse in terms of how you can play it, and it's, you know, not as simple as some of the older modes, yet at the same time it's super arcadey. So once you get the hang and get the feel for everything, I guess it will be easier. People were already trying to figure out the meta for this game mode, and at first I think they thought that Krauser would take the lead here as the strongest character because he has its mutation, and he also has an unbreakable knife, which he can use to perform even knife combos, which the other characters cannot. And since the knife or knifing kills will give you double the amount of time for every kill, it seemed like Krauser would take the lead, but that might not be the case actually. I have already seen that on a map like Village, for example, Leon actually takes the lead on the leaderboards on the consoles. And there have been some great strategies that people have come up with to get as high as they can. They're already, I think, at around 1,900,000 points, so 2 million will definitely be possible, I can say that. Yeah, so I think each and every character in this game mode is very well designed, and they basically all have their own meta. So you cannot pit a Hunk against a Leon or a Krauser against a Louise, and later if we get Wesker and Ada, we will see how they will perform, but every character feels different enough, so they have their own meta, I think, which is a good thing. So if companies like Capcom try to balance these characters out between each other, I think they feel very bland, and people don't like that. So I'm actually very happy that they play out very differently, and so yeah, people can try to be the best Hunk on a stage, and other people can try to be the best Leon. So yeah, that's just my take on it, and I really like that every character pretty much has its own meta. I think that's it for my general review of RE4R's Mercenaries mode. Yeah, as you can tell, I'm very pleased with it. I'm very happy that Capcom kind of included it and went with some of the design decisions that they've made. And let's hope for the future that we'll get some additional support. Maybe in the separate ways DLC we will see some additional stuff besides the data mined things that we already know. And maybe there is like an individual DLC for just Mercenaries. We don't know. It would be great, and I think Capcom is on the right track again with the RE series in general, and it shows this time around. This game just got better because of Mercenaries, I will say it that bluntly, and I cannot wait to see what people will rack up in terms of points, in terms of high scores, and all the strategies that people will come up with, and I will definitely cover some of that stuff on this channel, of course. But hey guys, I think that's it for now. That is my first impression on the Mercenaries minigame, and I tried to get this out before the next week starts, basically. And just giving you my thoughts after one weekend with it. So you will definitely see some runs on this channel. I will probably cover some strategic stuff as well later down the line. I just have to look at it myself, and you know, this is not a rush, even though the game mode is about a time attack. I think as a player it's important to stay calm and collected, and you know, the people which are now competing for high scores might not be on the leaderboards or might not be on the top like in a year from now, and I can guarantee you that there are people 1 year from now which will play this mode. So yeah, we basically have all the time in the world, and yeah, I think that's it for now, and have a great week, you guys. May the living God bless you in Jesus Christ's name, and until next time, stay well.